Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you certainly know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to help me explore topics related to living the intentional life. And I've been using the same spread for the last 2 lunar cycles, and I'm probably going to continue for another. And it's a spread that is based on the Tree of Life, and I call it, guess what? The Tree of Life spread. And in case you are new to the channel, or in case this is the first time you've seen this spread on my channel, let me tell you it's a very complicated, a very intense, and a very intriguing yet challenging spread. And so, just in case you've never seen one of these spreads before, I suggest going and checking out the video I did on the spread itself. I did a sample reading with just one deck, and if you want to see that, I'll put a card up here for you to hop on over and take a look at that spread, because it'll give you a little bit more of a sense of where we are headed in just a moment. Okay, so there's that resource for you right there. And this is the last time we're going to see these cards used together because the new moon is happening tonight. So I'm going to change out my cards for next week. So just in case you wanted to know where things are standing, that's where things are standing. Now, you know that, especially if you are a returning visitor, that I always have a sense of where the spread is going before I start recording videos. Now, every week, before I even come to my office to do this recording, I lay out my cards and I look at them and I write up notes. I look at the astrological associations because that's what I've been focusing on for the last few months. And I look at the associations that the cards themselves have for me, and I organize it all in a chart, and I usually by that point have a sense of where the spread is going. And I thought I knew where the spread was going before I came in today, but as I was setting up the camera and I was looking at the photo I have of the spread, I started thinking something else. I started thinking it could be going in a different direction. And so, friends, right now, I have no idea where this spread is going to be going. Like I said, it could be going the way, it could go the way I thought it would go, but it could go in a very different direction. So, if you're curious, well, probably you already know because you know the title. I don't know the title of the video yet. So, follow along on this journey with me. What are we going to do? Now, you know that this is a 2-part series, right? This spread, again, is very intense and it's a little long. It takes a little bit of unpacking. So in this video, I'm going to do 2 parts of the spread. Well, first I'll show you the whole spread. And then we're going to look at the supernal triangle and the first downward pointing triangle called the emotional triangle or the ethical triangle. And then we'll stop. And in part 2, we'll look at the third downward pointing triangle called the psychological triangle or the etheric triangle. And then we'll read the whole spread 3 different ways. We'll look at the mother pillar, the father pillar, and then we'll read the lightning path. That's all in part 2. So for part 1, again, we'll look at the whole spread just briefly, and then the first 2 triangles of the tree. I'm sorry. The pillars are in the second video. So here we go. Here is the whole spread. Take a look. For the last week, we've been having very cloudy, rainy weather, and so I haven't had great light for taking photographs of the cards. But still, you could see that these are gorgeous decks, right? They're beautiful decks. And in case you were curious about who the creators are and what the names of the decks are, I will have a short video at the end of this video and at the end of part 2 that will give you that information. And then also in the description box below, there are links for you to get the decks that are available. One of these decks is way out of print, and I'm sorry for that, but that's the way it goes. The rest of the decks are available, and I've got links for those, again, below. So yes, that was the whole spread. And you'll see in just a moment that we had a bunch of upright cards this week, right? Only one of them was reversed. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the supernal triangle, the topmost triangle of the Tree of Life spread. Here it is. That was the supernal triangle. And this is a gorgeous deck, and you know that I think that this is a gorgeous deck because I've been using this deck every week since I did my first deep dive into this deck back in July of last year. So yes, I'm in love with this deck. This is a beautiful deck by a beautiful creator, payne-towler, and there it is. And so you saw, in order, from number 1 in Kether, we had the 7 of Wands. And then in the lower right, in Chokmah, we had the 5 of Wands. Both of those were upright. And then reversed in Binah, we had the 9 of Wands. Now, the 9 of Wands showed up for us in last week's spread, but it was in Chokmah there, upright. This week, it got flipped upside down and shifted over into Binah. So it went from wisdom to understanding, but in a in a reversed manner. And if you have been following along with this channel, you know that when I use this deck, I always shuffle in reversals. Now, I split the deck in half, I turn half of it around and I riffle shuffle. And I split the deck in half and I turn half of it around and I riffle shuffle. And so it's usual for there to be reversals in the cards when I have more than one pulled from the deck. This time we've got 2 upright and only 1 reversal, so that means something. Sometimes we have all 3 reversed, sometimes we have all 3 upright. So we have 2 upright and 1 reversal here. And like I said, I still have no idea where this spread is going to go. Yeah, I had an idea of where it was going before I got to my office today, but now I still am I'm waffling on where this reading should go. And so you probably know better than I where we're going to be going because you see the title. I don't know the title yet. So again, yes, 7 of Wands was in Kether, upright. Kether, what is Kether? Kether is the crown of the Tree of Life. It's the unity. It's the Ein Sof. It's the part of. It's not even a part. You can't even call it a part because it is the Sephirah that is incomprehensible. It's so potential that we can't even conceive of what it can be. It's above the mind's comprehension. Especially the mind, we're talking of being the humanly manifesting mind. That mind cannot comprehend what the contents of this Sephirah are. Now, the internal natures that we are, the eternal natures that are coming down and having this human experience, those eternal natures which are in free and open communion with the fullness of the divine certainly can comprehend what is in the Ein Sof or what is in Kether. But for us, here and now, being human beings, having these human experiences, almost being human doings, having these human experiences, we can't get it. But we will get it because this is an attribute, this is an element, this is something that is going to be moving into manifestation because that is the purpose of the Tree of Life, is to move into manifestation. So this is where the arousal for the desire to create rests. This is where our the potential stirrings inside of the Ein Sof rest. Our potential for content. Perhaps even a pre-potential. It's the desire for a potential even. Yeah? This is a boundless energy. I'm sorry. This is beyond boundlessness. It's, again, imperceptible. And so what is there? What is there is the Seven of Wands. And let me show you that card up close and personal. Now, if I go too close, I notice that you can't really see the card very well. So I'm going to go this close. Let's see if this works. This is the Seven of Wands. We got those 7 wands with sigils all at the top of them. At first I thought they were zodiacal symbols or astrological symbols, but the second glance at the card, way back when I was first looking at the card, told me that no, they are not. But that's what I was thinking that they should be when the very, very first time I saw this card. But it's a beautiful card. I'm not saying that it's lacking anything for not having those symbols. It's a different kind of symbology. And at the bottom, we see the fire raging, and we see a path going. Do you see the path going into the background from that lineup of wands? It's there. It's a little difficult to see, but it is there. And there's an arch of flora up above, right? Trees, flowers, all of that beautiful stuff. It's a gorgeous card. And what is it? Well, if you look at the bottom here, we have Sagittarius ruled by Aries, which means that this card points to the Aries decanate of Sagittarius and its subruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of mutable fire, vital attributes enter our world. Yeah? The cardinal aspect from Aries, the cardinal aspect of mutable fire from Sagittarius's vital attributes enter our world, enter our natal charts, enter the reading. And so we got Aries. Aries is beaming through Aries house in Aries room in Sagittarius house with the planet Mars going through all of that. So what does that mean? What is up there in the pre-potential, in the imperceptible potential for us wishing to live intentional lives? Well, one way to understand or to look at this card is a gate of fears. Now, this is not a barricade, not a wall, but a gate. Something that is an impediment to our progress on the path that we want to go on, or the flow of the river that we want to go on as intentional beings. So we're asked to perhaps rethink our expectations. Perhaps rethink our strategies. Rethink where we want to go, how we're going to go there. Yeah, because whenever we put something out there on our powerful river of intention, we expect whether we're fully aware of it or not, we almost always expect where it's going to show up, how it's going to show up, who it's going to show up with or as. We have all of those, we've made all of those decisions about what it's going to look like. And we have expectations around those things. We're usually not able to hold the pure essence of what that is without accumulating a lot of information that we expect to be co-joined with it, if that makes sense. It's like we have a desire. That desire is a kind of archetype for the lover we want, the job we want, the home we want to live in. But that archetype is not like Kether. We cannot fully apprehend it because it's too... Actually, it's more like Chokmah, that archetype. Because there's not anything to grab onto it. So we put stuff around it so that we can hold onto it a little bit more easily, a little bit more rationally. And then we toss it out onto our powerful river of intention. And yet, what we're tossing out is really just the essence of what it is that we want. And the way it lands and the way it develops and manifests may look very different from the expectations that we plastered over it like a papier-mâché creation so that we can get a hold of it. Does that make sense? So this card is here to remind us that maybe it's going to, whatever it is, might look or feel differently. The road may be a different road than we thought it would be to get there. Yeah? So there's another potential for this card because of Mars and Aries, that competition, that we might be competing with ourselves. We might be competing with ourselves, and that can either be beneficial or detrimental. Yeah? Sometimes competition with self puts us in conflict. Sometimes competition with self gives us the inspiration to strive towards our personal best. So we have the potential to go two paths with that competition with self. And if we can strive for our personal best, maybe we will find our way through this gate. We'll be able to open this gate a little bit more easily and efficiently. However, we might have some habitualized fears which are limiting our beliefs of what we can achieve, what we can do, the way that essence of desire, that archetype of desire will manifest. So, recognizing those habitualized limiting beliefs, what can we do? Now, those limiting beliefs stand in the way of our being able to evolve, to push the envelope of where we are going or where we think we can go. Now, those limiting beliefs prevent us from crossing the border here of this gate. So what can we do? Well, we can do a couple of things. One, we can meditate, for example, and allow those limiting beliefs to dissolve. We might be called to look for a plan B so that we have something we can fall back on, and then we're able to move forward with a little bit more ease, a little bit more comfort. We've got like a safety net that we feel will hold us in just in case. Something for our rational minds to be able to hold on to, like a security blanket or a safety line as we move into the over the unknown, over what could be those limiting beliefs, those habitualized fears. Yeah, and because this is the Aries decadent of Sagittarius, we also have a complement. Yeah, the complement here is Jupiter in Virgo. I almost said Venus. Jupiter in Virgo. Yeah, what does that tell us? It tells us that we can cultivate abundance in a well-ordered, sustainable way. Yeah, sometimes Jupiter can go a little bit out of control with its burst of abundance and wealth, and and when we think of the planet Jupiter, what is it? It's a gaseous planet that had the potential to be another sun, had the potential to be a star if it had been just a little bit bigger. But it's big enough, and it's gassy, and there's very little to hold on to, right? But Jupiter moving into Virgo gives us the order and sustainable ways for that abundance to be cultivated. So we've got a lot of potential here in this potential Sephira. However, we do have also the potentials for limiting beliefs preventing us from receiving the blessings of those potentials that are possible in the Seven of Wands. And so where do we go from here? We go into Chokmah. Yeah? The crown leads us into our wisdom. And Chokmah, what is Chokmah? Chokmah is the top of the father pillar. It's the wisdom of the tree of life. It is the Sephira. I keep wanting to say space, but we haven't even really arrived at space yet. It's the Sephira of boundless impulses for creation. Now, we've gone from the potential for the desire for creation to here, the boundless impulse to create. So yeah, I want to get done, I want to make, I want to become. All of those things are here in Chokmah, but they're boundless. Which means they're really, really big, sure, but it also means that there are no borders, there are no boundaries, there's nothing to get a hold of. It's almost as difficult to see as a very, very fine fog. I don't know if you've ever lived in a place where there is fog, where you live there now, but there are times when fog is very, very noticeable. Sometimes it limits our ability to see. Sometimes it's very fine and we can see through it just fine, but we notice the moisture in the air. Sometimes it is so fine that we can barely perceive that there's anything there. That's what Chokmah is. It's there. We can notice it, but there's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to really clearly see. It's the intuitive insight of the soul, is another way to describe it. We're still unable to grasp it, but we notice that there is a stirring, or that there's something there. That's Chokmah. And in Chokmah, we have this beautiful card, the Five of Wands. And here it is, this beautiful, colorful burst of images. And let me just take a peek at this one more time, because it is so intricate. There are two columns there, right? One column has the sun, one column has the moon. In between those two columns, there's a horizontal looking disc. And the planets are beaming light down into that disc, and then that disc is radiating that light again back out down the bottom, right? No, it's not. Yes, no, okay, so wait a second. I'm describing this poorly. There's something in between those lights and the disc, and there's a crystal there. So what's happening is the planets are all beaming their light to that crystal, and then that crystal gathers all of that light together and splits it up and beams it down onto the disc. Right? And the Five of Wands, what is that? The Five of Wands, you see down at the bottom, it's the Leo decadent of Aries. So it points to the Aries decadent of Leo, not the Leo decadent of Aries. It's the Aries decadent of Leo. So it points to the Aries decadent of Leo and its subruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. The cardinal aspect from Aries is the cardinal aspect of fixed fire from Leo. Fixed fire's vital attributes enter our world. And I'm sorry, my shoulder was starting to get a little tired holding that card up. I know you're thinking, why? It's a light card. Well, there we go. So yes, cardinal fires going through fixed fire and entering our world, entering the question we're asking of the tarot, which is, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? So we have a lot of positive energy in Fives of Wands. Very different from Pamela Coleman-Smith's card, right? In her card, we got those 5 dudes, young dudes, holding big old sticks, not in the least phallic, knocking them together, right? Either in conflict or in competition or playfulness or sexual interaction, whatever we want to think of it. Now, there's a lot of knocking of wood together. But here we have a lot of energy beaming into a crystal and then radiating out in a kind of a rainbow, a divided and organized diversity of color, light, and energy. Because fixed can be a little bit too rooted, cardinal fire is giving it more of a drive forward, right? So we have what? Opulence here. We have the prima materia, the first matter, which is interesting being in Chokmah, because Chokmah is the first beginnings of the path of creation. So now this is matter, Chokmah is not matter, is not material at all. But still we have the prima materia. It's that first essence, the first material required for the alchemical work. So we have opulence, we have prima materia, abundant everywhere and yet valued nowhere. There's this rich source of abundance that we are not paying attention to. And that's here in the Five of Wands. Also, the divergent rays of light are coming together and being processed for self-cultivation. The evolution of the soul is possible here. The alchemy of self is also possible here. With the driving Martian energy pouring through Aries' room of Leo. So we're asked to be active interpreters of our experience. Smelting for good and boiling away the scum. Now, we want to do the alchemical process here. And the self-willed empowerment of Mars radiates through Leo almost like the sun radiating through Aries. Here we have Mars radiating through Leo, and that gives us the willful empowerment to become who we can become. Not being satisfied with who we are as much as being inspired to evolve more purposefully. We can follow our own lights and enjoy participating in the dance of life, in the flow of our intentions, in the evolution of our beings, which we are doing every moment of every day. Now, if we're not evolving, we're stagnating and dying. So, we're evolving every moment of every day, whether we're aware of it or not. And here we get that understanding of our participation in our own evolution and our own alchemical transformation into into gold, into the gold of Leo, in the potential gold of Leo. And so this is what our wisdom teaches, and then we move into our understanding. And our understanding is not such a happy card, frankly. In Binah, we have this, yeah? Binah. What is Binah? Binah is the top of the mother pillar, which is yin energy, while as Chokmah is yang energy, this is yin energy. And what does Binah do? As a mother, it receives the energy from Chokmah and applies stabilization and form to it. Just like a female embodied person can sometimes receive the male energy from a male embodied person and give it form and a container. That's what Binah can do. It's also the intuitive understanding or contemplation of what is possible. And in Binah, Binah receives the energy from Chokmah. Whoa, cards went flying. Okay, receives the energy from Chokmah, and from this one. It's interesting that this is the one that was left. Receives the energy from this and gives it not only a shape, a container, but gives it energy, because that energy does not come in and just sit there. It starts bouncing around off of the walls of Binah. And it becomes both more energized and it begins to split, just like cells begin to split in the womb of the mother. And that those cells become more diverse and, take different forms, right? Increase in energy and diversity. That's what happens in Binah. And let me get that card for us just a second. So I got too excited and those cards went flying and I've got it back in my hands now. So this is the card. This is the Nine of Wands. And what is the Nine of Wands? The Nine of Wands points to Sagittarius, the Sagittarius decadent of Sagittarius, and its subruler Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of mutable fire's vital attributes enter our world. And again, this was in Hokmah just last week. And it moved into here and turned upside down. So in this supernal triangle, we had a lot of Sagittarius and a lot of Aries. We got Mars twice. We had Jupiter twice. Jupiter in Virgo in Kether, and here we had Jupiter in his natural home Sagittarius as well here in Hokmah. But again, this is the Nine of Wands reversed. Yeah? So the complement is also possible here. Yeah? What is Sagittarius complement? The complement is Jupiter in Pisces. So we've got a little bit of water damping down the fire of Jupiter in Sagittarius here because the card is reversed. So what does this mean? Yeah, because we've got a little bit of that deep, a little bit hypersensitive water of Pisces flowing around the Nine of Wands of Sagittarius, this isn't the time to come out of shelter. Yeah. Now let me show you this card upright, just in case you haven't seen it again before. Probably if you've been here before, you've seen this before. But we've got that volcano in the background just spewing forth. And there are the 9 wands down at the bottom of the card, and in between there is a cave with 2 animals in it. One of them a goat and one of them a wolf. And these 2 are not natural friends, right? But they are taking shelter together right now in the same place because that's the safest place to be for the moment. Now, which is kind of the meaning of the card upright. But when it comes into the reversal, it's saying, okay, so not only do we want to find shelter, if once we're there, we want to stay there. It's saying this is not the time to come out of shelter. This is not the best time for making decisions. It's not the best time for making plans. We've become punch drunk. Not drinking a lot of punch and then getting drunk, but we've been beaten up so much that our heads aren't together. Now we're punch drunk. Our faculties are drained, so don't do it. Seek support and maintain the support that we do have now. Accept invitations accept no invitations that will put us out of our safety zone, that will put us in harm's way. So this is saying forage close to home. Don't go too far away. Which is interesting. Now, because this is balancing out that alchemical fire of the fire of alchemy of self-evolution, alchemy. So that our wisdom is, where's the card? Okay, so our wisdom is here in the 5 of Wands upright, saying do the work of getting your alchemy on. And then this one is saying, and yet don't do it too far from home. Stay home and do it. Stay shelter in place, whatever that means. Don't accept invitations now. Don't leap into the unknown. Whereas this card here was saying that we're facing our gate of fears. That we're the attribute, the meaning, the experience that is itching to start manifesting for us now is that recognition of our own self-limiting beliefs and our own standing in our own way, and the gate of fears that is arising on the path of our powerful river of intention. And so the way to overcome that perhaps is to do this, is to do the alchemy of self. It's to be active interpreters of our own experience, to discover who we are, and also to to what? To allow our light to flow and to enjoy the dance of life as we are, where we are, without going too far from where we are. Stay where we are. Find our helpers. If we have helpers, keep our helpers and stay where we are. That's what the supernal triangle is trying to point us toward in the coming week. That sheltering in place is not a place of stagnation, but it's a place of alchemy, if we allow it to be. And part of that alchemy is to allow ourselves space to discover where those barriers, the gate of fears resides within our unconscious. Does that make sense? Now, in that spread of cards that you saw, there was this card as well. Yeah, this is in Da'at, and this card was Juno. Now, this is the first time one of the asteroid planets appeared in one of the asteroids appeared in the Tree of Life for us. But we're not going to read this card until part 2 of this spread video. So we're going to move right on to the first downward pointing triangle, the emotional triangle or the ethical triangle. Here it is. That was the psychological triangle or the ethical triangle. And you saw that starting at the upper right, I should say, we had the 5 of Cups in Chesed. Now, the 5 of Cups was right below the 5 of Wands, right? Interesting. And then just got myself twisted up in the head for just a moment. Then next to it, on the other side, I should say, in Gevurah, we had the King of Swords. And then between them, at the heart of the tree, we had Justice in Tipreth. And frankly, it's because of this triangle that I began thinking that I needed to read this spread in a different way. Yeah. But first, let's talk about the 5 of Cups, which was right below the 5 of Wands. Yeah. Cups and Wands, fire and water. Well, the order did not match, right? Wands and Cups, fire and water. A very natural pairing, right? And they're both on the same side of the tree. Very natural associations, right? So when we get to the Father Pillar, that's going to be even more interesting than it is right now. But right now, it's also very interesting. It's very interesting. What is Chesed? Chesed is loving kindness. It is not the heart. The heart is Tipreth, but it is that energy that forms the heart, perhaps. That's the right hand of the Tree of Life. It is where our eager and ardent desire resides. Now we had these inklings, these sparks to create, right? Above here in Chokmah and Binah, but here we have that fully formed, ardent and eager desire, both to and against whatever it is. The desire, the ardent desire to do, to become, or to resist whatever it is. They all lie here in the loving kindness Sephirah. And in that Sephirah, we had, again, this 5 of Cups. I love this deck. And I'm very, very strongly considering continuing to use this deck next lunar cycle. I don't know. I'm still debating what to do for the next lunar cycle. Hopefully I'll figure that out tonight. Because I want to get the new decks ready for the next set of readings. Anyways, so we got this 5 of Cups in the Sephirah of Chesed, of our loving kindness, where yes, or no, but yes, can reside. And very interestingly, in this iteration of the deck by the second Count de Saint-Germain, The Five of Cups points to Mercury in Sagittarius, another Sagittarian association here, right? Which we had Sagittarius in Kether, we had Sagittarius in Binah, and here Sagittarius shows up again in Chesed. And with Mercury, who would have thunk? Mercury in Sagittarius, not the way I would naturally associate planets and in the decanates of the zodiac. But in this deck, that's what we got. So, what does that mean? In this deck, the book by Saint-Germain gives associations that are not entirely my favorite. He points to a lot of warnings and be carefuls and dire, desperate straits in a lot of the readings for his cards. And so, for example, for this card, in his book, he says quarrels in marriage, love affairs are dangerous, friends are treacherous. Really? Mercury and Sagittarius is that? Now, if the card were reversed, I'm sorry, what side did I show you? If the card were reversed, maybe, I guess, but I'm not reading this deck with reversals, partially because some of these cards, it's kind of hard to tell. If it's reversed, if I didn't have an image to compare it to in a book, is this upright or is this upright? You know, it's really difficult to tell. This could equally be upright to me. But anyways, because I don't know what those extra sigils are trying to impart to us. But still, I think, personally, that Mercury in Sagittarius is not such a negative thing. You know? Mercury, yeah, it's a little flighty, but Mercury will add a lot of forward momentum to a naturally forward-moving Sagittarius. And in this Five of Cups, the forward-moving, passionate fire married to a water suit can be, you could get drowned. That's true. You could get quarrels in marriage in the reversed card, but upright, I would want to go towards things like good fortune in love, deep-seated attachments, steadfast affections, fidelity in love as well, responsibility, holding our emotions in check. Now, we don't want to get carried away with our emotions. We want to keep our emotions stable, in check, corralled, not bound, but corralled, right? And we'll get benefit from influences that we might not be fully aware of. And those influences could be from, where was that card? Yeah, those influences could be part of that help that we find when we take shelter in the cave in the Nine of Wands reversed. Emotional responsibility is attracted here. Realizations of dreams, expanded yet ideas that are rooted, yet expanded, right? Rewarding psychic experiences are possible here as well. So these are all ideas which come from C.C. Zane's reading of the Five of Cups card. And C.C. Zane based his deck on the deck that this was drawn from. So that's why I'm pulling these resources together, because, like I said, quarrels in marriage and love affairs being dangerous and friends being treacherous, I don't think is what this spread is trying to teach us. I think it's trying to teach us that we have possibility of good fortune in love that we want, but yet we want to make sure that we don't go tripping on it. We want to keep our emotions in check, but enjoy the good fortune that is possible for us. Now, we want to have steadfast, not flighty affections, but steadfast affections. And we want to recognize that help is going to be available from us from unknown quarters. Does that make sense? And this Four of Cups card is going to flow into the King of Swords. And it's because these two are in balance that rather than having this card be the watch out, you're going to get watch out for divorce, your friends are going to stab you in your back, because these two are in balance, or are intended to be in balance. And this is in the loving kindness, Sephira, of the Tree of Life. This card being the match seems to point to this being positive aspects of the bounty and the overflowing of loving kindness, which is corralled here in Gevra. Gevra, what is Gevra? Gevra is judgment and limitation. All of the paired Sephira are paired in such a way that one feeds the other and the other gives boundaries and container for the one. So our loving kindness is this effluent, plethora, boundlessness of love and kindness. But it's great if that can be in a container of some sort, have some boundaries, some limitations for that energy, not to just spread out into infinity without any, again, container. Having a container for us as humans, having these human experiences is very helpful. And so the container here is Gevra. Judgment and limitation, yes, setting boundaries. It's the beneficial aspect of Saturn, you might say. It's also giving energy. Yeah, the mother pillar gives energy to what it is received from the father pillar. It gives energy and motion to the ideas that we get from the loving kindness Sephira of Chesed, and it gives that motion. So it's not, again, just like jelly spreading out all over everywhere in the middle on a hot day, like butter melting everywhere, right? It chills it out a little bit, gives it some form. And it acts in concert with Chesed to form reality. Not into material, but to give shape to what is manifesting. It's also the left of the right hand pair of starting to put form to the things, the creation that is beginning to move into manifestation. And that's this in the King of Swords. And here in the King of Swords, we have, and it's a gorgeous color, right? I love that fire red and that gray space in the middle. So in the middle of all of that fiery passion, there is this cool, clear Aquarian King of Swords. Because in this deck, the King of Swords is Aquarius, which is the domicile of Saturn. Remember, I was just mentioning Saturn. I hadn't even thought about that. Which is the domicile of Saturn, from which fixed air's vital attributes enter our world. We have fixed fire up in Leo with the Five of Wands, and here we have fixed air in Aquarius, which is giving us a balance to the, again, good fortune in love, the fidelity in love, holding emotions in check, but benefiting from hidden resource, hidden influences, emotional responsibility, realization of dreams. All of that is given form here by getting a little bit, now suddenly the Korean word is the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. It's 냉정하다. It's a little bit, becoming a little bit more reserved, but not reserved, taking us an emotional step back. Okay, why am I saying that? Well, because the King of Swords is the strategist in work, yeah? Mastery of organization. This king gets the stuff in its boxes. But this king is also progressive, yeah? Aquarians are progressive. They're more advanced than patriots, but they can seem a little bit impersonal, right? So that's the balance to the Five of Cups, and what will give shape to that loving energy of the Five of Cups is to become a little bit detached. Detach a little bit so that we can see the direction we want to move into. So that we can allow our minds to envision the future that we're moving into, that to learn from the past and find the direction forward. Yeah? So the King of Swords is not very emotionally attuned, right? But quite mentally active. Very interested in the very old and the very new. The King of Swords keeps up to date, but also learns from the distant past. Loves talking to people, loves in the interchange of ideas. Sometimes likes to play devil's advocate too. Yeah? The King of Swords, Aquarians, can play devil's advocate, not because they necessarily believe wholeheartedly in whatever that opposing stance is, but because they want to see what happens when the opposing ideas are presented to somebody with convictions. What can develop from that, right? It's the intellectual curiosity which gives us the idea to play devil's advocate to somebody else. But still, this King of Swords is altruistic. They're progressive because they're interested in the progress and the evolution and the justice of society that they believe is just. But they need to remember that wisdom. I was just saying that in Aquarius, we need to remember that wisdom without practical application has no or little value. Now, the Aquarian wants to be reminded that all of those wonderful ideas that they come up with and that they develop in interacting with other people and in thinking about the past and what is as they look to the future, all of that wisdom is wonderful, but without putting it into practice, without finding a way for it to have any application in the real world, it becomes of little to no benefit for them or for the people who they want to help uplift, who they want to help move in the direction of greater justice. Right? And that's interesting because what? It's a great balance with the Five of Cups. Yeah? All of that, the good fortune and love, again, the emotions which are there but corralled a little bit, and yet they are a blessing, and yet we have good psychic experiences. Those wonderful cup-like ideas and attributes are beautifully balanced out by this clear thinking, a little bit impersonal Aquarius King of Swords. And those two are balanced in Tiphereth. And Tiphereth, I already have this all lined up for you, and in Tiphereth, that is the heart of the tree of life. That is the Sephirah, where all of the other Sephiroth are combined and are connected. All the other Sephiroth are joined by paths to Tiphereth. And so it's the heart, it's the beauty, the glory of the tree of life. This is where creation flowers forth in vibrational form. It's not manifest yet, but flowers forth in a vibrational form to become manifest into the world. This is where force becomes form and form becomes force, because this is not just the gateway for the energy from Kether to move down into Malkuth at the bottom. It's also the pathway for Malkuth's energy to form, to flow back up and reconnect with the divine. So this wheel of the Sephirah of Tiphereth moves in all directions. It moves to allow energy to flow down and to allow energy to flow back up again. And in this spot, which is giving us the balance between both Chesed and Gevurah, in Tifereth, we had the Justice card. And what better card to have for the balance point? Justice. And justice, what is that? Justice is associated with, in this deck, very interestingly, Venus in Cancer of all things. Yeah, we've got the beauty and relationship of Venus instead of Libra, in Cancer. Now it's interesting because Libra, we have that idea of balance, and the symbol for Cancer is those two, looks like a kind of yin-yang, right? In Cancer. So we got a little bit of that dynamic balance, I guess, in the icon for Cancer, if you want to think of it that way. It's a gorgeous card, yeah. We see the Egyptian goddess there with Mat behind her. The feathers of, is it Mat? Just a moment. Yes, it's the feathers, the goddess of justice behind the goddess sitting in the chair. The feather from this goddess is used in the balance, where in the Egyptian tradition, when we die, our hearts are weighed against a feather. That feather comes from this goddess behind the goddess sitting in the throne. See a moon above her. We see the scales. We've got a beautiful lion down there at her right leg. Beautiful card. And again, justice points to Venus in Cancer. Very interestingly. And justice is also associated with the Hebrew letter of Het, which is a fence or a gate, which reminds us of this just a little bit, right? But it's also the death as a womb, the death of the being to be reborn into new life in the womb. It's also associated with the rune Wunjo, which is the rune for joy, for balance, for the group, and for attraction. Yeah? So here in the center, we have ideas of death as a womb, as gates and fences, portals, yeah? Portals and demarcation of boundaries with a door. And here we also have the idea of balance between positive and negative. Every action brings a reaction, yeah? To be aware of consequences. And because we have Venus in Cancer, what do we have? We have deep relationships. We have sensitivity and empathy, compassion, justice, or equilibrium is here. We have a developed spirit of give and take in this card. And to remember that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Now we want a balance of work and enjoyment, moderation in all things. Directed thought banishes crystallization. Crystallization in the negative sense of becoming rigid and hard and eventually fragile and very breakable. Don't let things hang in the balance. Interesting way to put that for the Justice card, where it's all about balance, right? But we don't want things to hang in the balance. This isn't a card of stagnation. It's a balance of fluidity. And it tells us or reminds us to curb our urge to impose our own personal law upon others. Sounding a little bit Scorpion. Serious exchange with superiors is possible. And pleasure can stimulate our productivity here as well. And a lot of these ideas and associations are through C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light, by the way. So what do I get here? What is the balance point between that Five of Cups of fortunate relationships and then the King of Swords in the detached Aquarian point of view? In that balance point, we have a balance, right, of deep relationships that are sensitive and empathetic. And we want to balance both work and play within our relationships. We want to direct our thought towards the future so that we don't become stagnant, and we want to let ourselves move forward with the things we want to move forward with, not let things hang in the balance because we're undecided, right? And I think those indecisions are interpersonal and interrelational items, interpersonal and interrelational aspects of our life, if that makes sense. So here we are in Tiferet. And it's because of this triangle that I'm thinking that this spread is really about relationship, if that makes sense. So friends, what are we going to do now? We are going to stop here. In just a moment, there will be a short video giving you the names of the decks and the names of the creators, so you stick around for that. And I'll put a card up here that will jump you over to the second part of the video if you want that. There is this. And as usual, friends, comment below. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? Does this make sense to you? Is this making sense to you so far? If it's not, let me know. If it is, let me know. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. Hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of it, and YouTube will draw more people into the channel if you hit those thumbs ups. Those thumbs up. And also, friends, if you want a reading from me, my email address is below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Send me an email and we'll get you a reading. So friends, thank you very much for being here, and come with me to part 2. And in the interim, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.